Hello everyone, welcome to Life, Love and the Pursuit of Real Estate /Dirty 3 Wines. I'm in the middle of South Gippsland here at the moment with my friend Marcus Satchell, and I'm actually blessed today because we're sitting here at one of his winemaking barns talking about one of my favourite subjects, which is wine. So Marcus has been gracious to do an interview with me today, but also too, Marcus has a great business ethos in relation to where he is, and his simplistic approach and pure approach has meant that in the period of time that this wine company's been going, which is not long, right, this has gained such great momentum, but he's kept his humility, which is a real key factor, I think, in this business brand that we're about to talk about today. So I've been busting to do this for ages, and I met, the short story is I met Marcus at Christmas time, and we went into his cellar door, which is in Inverloch, and walked in, and I never was a huge fan of Pinot, and I left the place buying a shitload of wine, drinking a shitload of wine, right, and I've been drinking Pinot ever since. So Marcus has got a really well-founded background in wine and also in the music industry. So Marcus, you want to just run us through just basically a bit about your music background, how you got into winemaking. We'll cover a bit of that.
Yep.
And then we'll run into the grog itself.
Sounds good, mate.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess my background, I grew up down here in Wonthaggi, a little town down the road called Wonthaggi. And yeah, interested in music, just got an interest in that when I was probably around about 9 years old, and started learning the saxophone, and just learnt that as a hobby, I guess. And, you know, it became a passion, and but I was also always through that whole time, like, quite academically minded. I did my studies in year 12 around maths science.
Oh, right, okay.
And so when I left school, I was like, okay, I'm going to do chemical engineering, and just music was always just going to be something that I did for fun.
Background, yeah.
And then, yeah, I had a year off, which, you know, a lot of people do after year 12, and went up to Queensland, hitchhiked up to Queensland and sailed around the Whitsundays in a 16-foot cat with a mate, and had this kind of crazy time up there. And I decided during that year, I bumped into a local guy who's still down this way in Phillip Island, a fantastic musician called Simon Curfew, and I bumped into him, and he said, mate, have you thought about studying music? And I go, well, I never have before. I learnt it, but I never studied it. Never studied at school, didn't play in any of the bands or anything like that. Played in a lot of rock bands and blues bands and stuff.
You do bass guitar too, don't you?
Yeah, I do now, but back then it was mostly saxophone.
Right.
And it was all saxophone pretty much, but I could play a few other things, a bit of guitar and stuff. But yeah, and anyway, so this guy Simon said, mate, have you thought about like studying and trying out for, you know, like College of the Arts? He said that was always my dream. I'm pissed off I never did it, you know. Yeah. And I said, oh well, yeah, it had never occurred to me. And I said, oh, why not? And it was like one of those things where I've always been like that, where I just go, oh, well, why not? You know, why not we try it? And so, yeah, I just naively went and auditioned for Victorian College of the Arts in the jazz improvisation course, and then blow me down, I got in.
Good on you.
And yeah, and I said I'd never studied music before, and so I ditched the chemical engineering and went and I thought, oh, it was too good an opportunity, and went to the College of the Arts and met a bunch of amazing musicians there who I'm still friendly with. I went and saw a gig with a guy in the Jazz Festival the other night who's still one of Melbourne's leading drummers, and if not Australia's leading drummers and hip hop artists. And
what's his name?
Ivan Kachoin, his name is. Yeah, he goes under the pseudonym Choi.
Oh, I've heard
he's really starting to kill it. He's producing quite a few albums and stuff, and really nice guy. And I met him and a bunch of other musicians, and we formed this band and ended up touring around the country supporting, you know, bands like Skunk Hour and Regurgitator and
okay.
Tism.
What was the name of the band?
Cranky was the name of the band.
Cranky?
Yeah, we had a...
That's so like you.
Yeah, no, that's right. It was a bit of a play on it because we weren't a cranky band either. You know, we were quite a fun band.
Yeah.
And it was quite a big band. There was 6 of us in it, and there was a lot of egos, and it was, you know, it was just one of those times, you know, like we lived a dream for a while, you know, and we were high rotation on Triple J and all that sort of stuff. And,
okay.
And it was great, and we toured around the country, and, you know, on the smell of an oily rag, but it didn't matter because we were 19, 20, and we didn't care, you know, and it was great. It was just like I learnt so much, opened my eyes to the world, opened my eyes to possibilities, and never saying no to opportunities, you know, like all that sort of stuff.
Yeah,
if they come up, you know, and never shutting doors, I guess, as well too, taught me that from a young age to just remain open-minded and remain kind of
that's
responsive.
why we're sitting here in your vineyard.
Because
you've left all the doors open.
It's completely correct.
Yeah.
It set the foundations for what came later. And I guess, you know, I went through a soul searching period there too, because out of the back of that was sort of how I fell into winemaking. Was the band split up. I dropped out. I had already dropped out of my studies and decided, what was I going to go back and finish that, and what would that give me? And I thought, well, really, if I go back and study, the only thing that's going to enable me to do is teach, which is a possibility. But I said, I don't want to teach. I grew up, both my parents were teachers, and they said, I don't care what you do as long as you don't become a teacher. Probably a bit like you, mate, with your old man, you know, like, so.
Don't be a fruiterer.
Yeah, don't be a fruiterer. That's right, exactly. So, yeah, it was very much like, and that was ringing in my head, I'm not going to become a teacher. I'm curious to say I've been surrounded with them all my life. I'm glad I didn't. But and I ended up in a music shop, working in a music shop, which I still, you know, like, you know, how you make lifelong friends. I've still got a couple of amazing friends from that period of my life as well too. Spent a couple of years in retail. And I just got towards a couple of years into that, and I was like, oh, geez, yeah, I'm not happy. Like, this is not for me. You know, sales and retail isn't for me. And yeah, I sort of couldn't really see. I was about 24 and couldn't really see a future at that point. And then, you know, things remaining open and responsive, which is what I did. And a family friend who happened to own a vineyard in the Yarra Valley said, mate, what are you doing? What are you doing with your life? What are you up to? And I go, oh, you know, just working in the music shop, playing a few gigs. And he said, oh, have you thought about the wine industry? And I went, nah. What are you talking about? You know? And he said, oh, you know, I've been doing it for the last 5 or 6 years with the vineyard. And he said, mate, there's so many people like you in the industry. He was one of those guys that had that sort of like intuition about people, and you know, he said, this industry is going to suit you. He just knew straight away, you know.
Well, there's quite a few musician winemakers now that you've introduced me to.
Mate, heaps.
Well, you've opened
Paul
those doors
Bridgman
for me.
at Levantine, Bill Downey, who's got his own label.
Yeah.
And
So what winery was that?
Stewie
the first
Proud is at Thousand Candles.
yes. Yeah.
So he was growing grapes as a grower for Yarra Ridge at the time.
Oh, okay.
And anyway, so that was where this happened. Oh, mate, back in the day,
The Shardy was great.
that was the Yarra Valley label.
Yeah,
That's one of the great tragedies of corporate ownership, that one. But
Yes.
but anyway, that's life, and that's what happens. And then other opportunities flow out of that. But yeah, look, Bridgie, that was where I met Bridgie from Levantine Hill, and he's actually an important part of the story, because when Fred lined up an interview or a meeting, if you like, with Rob Dolan, who was the chief winemaker at Yarra Ridge at the time, who's now got his own label in Warrandyte. And he's been through 6 sessions of sort of wineries and businesses and stuff, and now really sort of landed on his feet and really killing it. But he was Fred introduced me to Rob, and Rob was an ex-footy player for Port Adelaide, right? Big ruckman, Sticks they call him. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And like, just ridiculously nice guy. And anyway, so he interviewed me and said, g'day. He said, oh, you know, look, mate, I haven't got much work at the moment, but he said, there's always opportunity. Have you thought about, would you want to do a vintage? You know, and I go, what the fuck's a vintage? You know, what is it? I didn't, it's that green. At the time, I liked drinking wine, loved drinking wine, but I had no idea what it took, what it was, what the industry was, you know, just and yeah, so I had this sort of chat with him, and he said, and I said, vintage, oh, well, what's that? And he said, oh, you know, you work over, it's when we pick all the grapes, busy time, we look for extra people, you know, we're looking for, so he said, you know, I might not be able to guarantee you a job at the end of it, but I'm happy to give you a vintage job. He said, I like you. He said, I reckon you'll fit in here. He said, that was when he brought Bridgie into the room. He said, you've got to meet Bridgie. He plays guitar. I reckon you two are going to get along.
Okay.
And that was literally that. And he says it to this day. If he introduced me to anyone, he still said, oh, I gave Marcus his first job on the basis that he could play saxophone.
And that was you got to make some wine though.
Yeah, but that was the sort of guy he was. He was like a footy coach. You know, he put a team together. You know.
Yeah, good.
And I reckon I learned a lot from that about too, which I'm sort of, I guess we're getting to that point now in our business where we're starting to need to employ people and looking at
understanding where the IP comes in.
Yeah.
If someone's got a particular intellectual property that you can amalgamate with somebody else's.
Absolutely, and it's a skill. I think it's largely a learnt skill though. There's a gut in
intuition's based on experience, in my opinion.
You're right, mate. Yeah, 100%. Yeah. I completely agree with you. As I get older, you go with your gut.
Yeah.
You win.
You know.
Yeah, and you don't, and you lose. You know,
if it looks like a duck and it talks like a duck, it's generally a duck.
That's right.
So when you're younger, you don't look at it that way.
Definitely not, mate.
Yeah.
So,
I get it.
So So Stixie gave me a job, met Bridgie, and that was at Yarra Ridge, and I threw my other job in. And I did have this distinct feeling as I was driving out to the Yarra Valley. I'll never forget it. I drove through Lilydale, which some people would be familiar with, driving through that drive through Lilydale out on the Maroondah Highway, and then the first vineyard you come to at the time, is another one in between now, but it was St Hubert's. And I remember seeing the big St Hubert's sign on the top of the old chook shed roof.
They made good Chardies early days too.
Yeah, and fantastic Cabernet too.
Yes,
but definitely good Chardonnay as well. Good vineyard, that one.
Yeah.
It's a cracking vineyard. And at the time I didn't know that Yarra Ridge made St Hubert's wine, that I was going to have this sort of connection with the place as well too. So I ended up working there. But remember seeing the St Hubert's roof, it was just like this thing. You remember some certain things about a time in your life. Drove past the vineyard and I just went, Fred's right. Like I felt, it was almost like a calling. It was an amazing thing. It was like, just, it felt right.
Felt good.
Without me even...
Like putting on a jacket that fits well.
Without even speaking to anyone, without me doing the interview or anything. And that was I was on my way out to do the interview,
That's
so,
cool.
And anyway, so cut a long story short, that was where I landed and at Yarra Ridge and spent a few years there. Realised that the corporate, because that was, it became... When Rob left about a year, 18 months later, and as soon as he left, he held the team together. He held the corporates at bay as well too. In that, in terms of the sort of the feel of the place, And as soon as he left, the whole, it was like the vultures came in.
It's
and
like having the filter's gone.
Yeah, the filter was gone.
That's a real corporate issue. Well, we don't have to get into that today, but it's a real, because I see that a lot in my industry.
You would,
no filter.
And it's you can still run an amazing business in a corporation, but it's the filter. And I was sort of like, and the filter went, and the new guy came in, and as I say, it was like the vultures came in, the whole culture changed, all these rules came in, that we just, and none of us had fun anymore. None of us liked it, they took all the fun away, and then that's, work's got to be about fun, at the end of the day. Like no matter what you're doing, if if it's not fun, you got to look for a new job, because you don't have to be a manager. No. But if you're not being invigorated by your work, why?
So what made you? So then after that, then where did you move to?
So I was then on the hunt. So I realised that wasn't for me.
So you were fossicking for work.
Yeah. So and Rob Dolan, I thought I'll go back to Rob.
Yeah.
I'll say, mate, I'm not liking it. And the story. And he said, got the man for you. He said, I've heard, and always networking, mate.
Yeah.
Building your networks, never letting go of them. Yeah. So I met he said, Dominique Porte's looking for a winemaker. He's just setting up in the Yarra Valley. At that stage, he was crushing about the same amount as I crush now, 70 tonne out the back of Yaring Station.
Okay.
I rang Dominique up. He said, "Oh, hello," and I said, "Mate, Marcus."
Makes some good juice that he does.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Cabernet again, amazing Cabernet, great rosé too.
Yes.
And a genius at sparkling. Yeah, very good.
Yeah, I've had the odd one of his sparklings. Impressive.
Very good.
Yeah.
So he was a old winemaker at Taltani, so all the Clover Hill stuff. He planted all those vineyards for Clover Hill. Yeah, that's his legacy, Clover Hill.
All right.
Yeah. He was one of the first to go to Tassie for sparkling. So he's
good
pretty quiet about that, but he was one of the pioneers of Tassie.
Yeah.
Saw it on the writing on the wall early. So, but so I met Dominique and we got along well straight away. It was the instant kind of connection.
Yep.
He's a tough man. Like he's very French and he's very he's quite full on.
Deliberate. They're deliberate.
It's all right. At the time, I didn't understand him. Yeah. Now I know him, and we're great mates. But I found it difficult at the start. But the French way, and people call it arrogance, and it might be, but it's more. I say it's a way. It's a cultural thing.
Because our Australian culture is more casual.
Yeah.
So therefore, the French are a bit more. They're more deliberate.
And they sort of we'd have an argument. And I'd be devastated, and then he'd walk back in 5 minutes later with a smile on his face and go, what's going on, mate? Friendly as fire. I'm going, we just had a massive barney. You don't do it like that in here, but that's the way they do it. And I learned, and now, as I say, we're great mates. It's really good.
That's a good.
And he's become a mentor actually now. Yeah. He's helped me through this. So, and Rob Dolan is continuing to help me. He's actually now introducing me to people. He's got a guy who's maybe going to plant a vineyard down here, and so those networks. I don't know. You do a lot of this sort of stuff in terms of, mate. I just can't. I can't speak highly enough of maintaining networks and maintaining,
Yeah.
you know, never shutting a door on anyone. Like,
Well, and all industries are like that now, and remembering too that, you know, we're only a country of 24 million people.
That's right.
So therefore, networking
it's a very small world.
is very, very huge. So
Yeah.
you know, to be successful,
So true, mate.
you've got to try and get a little pie of a little market.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things that this is a disadvantage here. But there again, we have other advantages by drinking good booze like yours.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. That.
So
it's so true. Like it is. It's such a small place, and you know, and therefore, by definition, then the wine industry is a tiny industry.
Yes.
You know, because it's not a very big industry anyway, and so everyone knows everyone. You know, someone says to me, "Oh, do you know blah blah?" Like you said to me.
Yeah.
You know, Bridgie. Well, I did my first job with Bridgie.
Yeah.
You know, so
Yeah, that's right.
You know, it's a very small world, and I think being careful not to shut off doors is important, and has been important to maintain the good relationships with managers, even if I left the job, you know,
Yes.
all that sort of stuff, which was with Dominique. So, you know, at the time, that was what brought me back home. We had twin girls. My wife's from down here as well too,
Yeah.
Lisa, and she's an integral part of the business now. But,
Absolutely, she's great. The cellar door, fantastic.
Yeah, I mean,
like that place revolves around her.
100%.
Yeah.
It is her, really. You
Yeah,
know, I mean,
yeah.
it's you know, I have a very small party. She brings the warmth and the generosity, which is her spirit.
Yeah,
you know?
the guys just on that score, Lisa runs the cellar door. They've got a cellar door in Inverloch, so it's Dirty Three Wines that we're talking about, that Marcus owns, and and what I didn't say at the start, he's actually the chief winemaker. So before Dirty Three, though, you were then our friend around the corner here.
Yeah,
Philip.
so I left. So when I left the Yarra,
Yep.
I came down here again, mate. Here you go. So like networks again, it's going to come up again everywhere I go. So or everywhere anyone goes, if you utilise them correctly.
Yep.
I thought, okay, we're on the move. We've made a decision that we want to come back home. We had twins, and we found ourselves just constantly not up in the Yarra. We were either here or, you know, in Melbourne with my nan or somewhere, and you know, we just weren't at home, and so it didn't feel like home, and we needed to find what home was, you know, and we were, well, let's go back home, you know, let's go back to our roots.
And see if it feels good.
Yeah. And I knew that there wasn't really an industry down here, so I thought, shit, this is going to be difficult. So how am I going to go about this? I know, there's a friend her name is Denise Miller. And she's been another, particularly when I moved back here, a very strong mentor from all sorts of, from business point of view and every point of view really, life point of view. But she used to own Bortley's in the Yarra Valley with her husband Graham Miller. It was called Yarra Estate.
Yes, I remember it.
And
show my age now.
Yeah. So you know, they wanted Jimmy Watson there and stuff. And she's been a very successful grower and winemaker, knows her stuff. And I met her at Yarra Ridge. When she left that business and sold that business, she then went off and taught at TAFE,
right,
and took tours out to wineries and part of that. And so I met Denise at Yarra Ridge, and she'd come around and I'd take her on, I'd take a part of the tour, or you know, she'd stop and talk to me and say, "What are you doing now, Marcus?" And I'd explain to the people about what I was doing and stuff like that. And so we built this, got a little rapport. And I said, Denise has gone, she's moved to Wonthaggi, my old hometown. I'll give her a call. So I gave her a call, and he said, "Yep, I've got two people for you to meet. You want to go and speak to Rick Lacey at Purple Hen? He's starting a new vineyard down there. And you want to speak to Lionel Hahn? He's got the Silver Waters vineyard. They're the two main players now down here."
You went to Purple Hen?
Yep.
Yeah.
And that was home. Yeah, so then I ended up, we said, organise something up. I said, yep, I'll come down and be your winemaker.
They make not a bad Pinot, Purple Hen.
Yeah, and great Shiraz too. Yeah,
do they?
Yeah,
Okay.
amazing Shiraz. Yeah, worth checking out. And yeah, very, very, very good Pinot. So yeah, then came down there and landed a job there, and ended up, as a result of sort of making that all work, because he was fairly small and still is fairly small, although he has grown a lot from those days. To make it all work, as a winemaker, I decided that I'd put the feelers out to see if I could make wines for other people as well too at his facility,
right?
Which is called contract winemaking.
Yeah.
And so where they supply you their grapes from their vineyard, and you make a wine and give it back to them in a bottle.
Yep.
It maintains the full integrity. It's just that you bring the skills of what you do as a winemaker that is, takes a lot of time to learn how to do.
And that's a reputation-based job, that would be, because you need the rep to be able to do that well. Yeah.
Very much so, yeah. And things can go pear-shaped if you're not careful. So so I put a few feelers out, and then all of a sudden, few gigs started coming my way, and we made a business out of it, So between doing the contract winemaking and doing stuff for Rick, it was, I had a job, which was great. So
fantastic.
So I spent about 5 years there, and then one day out of the blue, Philip Jones rang me up from Bass Phillip, and said, "Mate, I need a winemaker. Your name keeps popping up, and I thought I'd better, check out what your story is. And I said, yeah. So I said, look, I can probably spare you a day a week. I can, come around and do some work with you and stuff. And at the time, so I was building that sort of, trying to build a business and build some, I was taking on anything really, to be quite honest. First time I ever got into the vineyard was when I came back here. So I needed to combat that with, like, winter was quiet, so the job was quiet in the winery, so I'd go out and do some pruning. I'd never pruned a vine in my life, sort of seen it on a whiteboard at uni. But it was the best thing that could have ever happened to me, because I worked out how to grow grapes from the ground up. And at that stage in the Yarra Valley, I was only making wine. I was a winemaker. You didn't step foot into the vineyard pretty much, besides to work out when the grapes were ready to pick. You didn't have anything to do with the process of it. And that's the leap forward for me, taking that plunge and certainly taking a huge dive in income as well too at that time. And I guess also a career path. Like, I was all of a sudden working for 20 bucks an hour.
You're changing direction too, so that takes a bit of love and you sort of gambling on your own IP then. So
100%, mate. Yeah.
Because working at Bass Phillip, that's a good gig, because he's been noted as having some cracker Chardonnays right through Australia, and his Pinots are world renowned now.
Yeah, absolutely.
So therefore you were chief winemaker for some of those.
Yeah, so I went and came and ended up getting a winemaking job there with Phil, and that, like, he is a wealth of knowledge. Like, he really is. Like, he was a pioneer of Pinot in Gippsland.
Yes.
He was a pioneer of really viticulture in Gippsland.
He really set that up.
Yeah.
Like, the guy is renowned.
Yeah,
like,
and pioneer of Pinot in Australia. Like, he is one of a handful of people with like Nat White on the peninsula at the Main Ridge, and there's a few others that pioneered Pinot in Australia, and he was certainly one of those. As I say, there's a handful of them back in the 70s. And so hats off and respect, and just for that alone. But then on top of that, then all of the knowledge that he's built over the time. Yes. It's a bit like he came out of that era of guys like James Halliday, when Burgundy and the wines and the great wines of the world were affordable.
Yes.
I can't afford to drink them anymore. I can get a bunch of mates together, we can get one bottle and sit down and enjoy it, but that's it. These guys were buying boxes of stuff that I've fortunately now had the privilege to taste, but only on very rare occasions. And these guys were just drinking it like their, Saturday night bloody boozer,
guzzler. Yeah, guzzler.
And they, because it wasn't the Chinese hadn't discovered French wine at that stage, and that was relatively cheap, for what it was, so Phil, had drunk all these wines and had a good cellar of them, and would hand them out to me, and we'd talk about them, and I was getting this amazing education that I didn't have to that point. I'd gradually got there, and it sort of set me on a path, I guess, through. I was getting there with Burgundy and understanding it, and then this sort of whole path opened up.
Because what's rare about you, which is interesting, and for people that watch this, what I find interesting is that you're the winemaker, but you're also the entrepreneur and the businessman. So therefore, you try and blend it. You try not to act that way, but you are your IP's in those areas. Now that I've got to know you, and
I learn a lot of that off people like Dominique and Phil, and Rob Dolan, those guys that gave me my first job. I've watched them, I watched their careers, and sort of, I guess, that idea of having mentors and being open and thinking about how they go. And the only way, you said it before about experience. The only way I could get to the point that I am now is through spending the last 20 years of my existence in the wine industry and drinking bucket loads of booze, both for fun but also for study. We would have dinners, we still do, but not as often as we did back in the day. But sort of 10 years ago and 15 years ago, we would structure dinners. We'd sit down and we'd study all the wines. We'd do all the research on all the vineyards, and we'd bring all these wines. We'd all throw in $200, $300 each, and we'd drink all of them, break them down and analyse them, talk about them, and try and get right inside these wines, and we've spent, like I said to someone the other day, a guy said to me, mate, I want to learn more about winemaking. I've got a vineyard and I want to start making my own wine. And he said, what course do you suggest I do? I said, don't do any. I said, don't bother about courses. I said, I've done a course, done a university degree, but don't start there. Not at your age, not what you're doing, right? That might come later. I can give you a mountain of books to read that'll give you the sort of, the science behind stuff. You're just going to struggle with that. You're not a scientifically minded guy, so you're going to struggle, that was my advantage. And I said, just go out and just work with people, soak it up. Yeah. Go and you might have to take a backward step for a while, but if you're serious about this, you're going to have to go and do 3 or 4 vintages and you might have to travel overseas and do one as well, and you might have to, but you're going to have to give up a bit of time and give your vineyard up, hand that over to someone else to get someone to make your wine for harvest, but go and learn from someone else and get immersed in it, and pick their brains and work it out and get a feel for it. And then I said, on top of that, now you're going to have to spend about $100,000 on wine and drink it, taste it and drink it, analyse it, because your secret weapon in the wine industry, which a lot of people kind of forget, winemakers understand it, is, that have been in the industry, and the good winemakers, is your palate. You got to drink the stuff.
Do you know one of the things with palate that I've noticed is that, and as you know, I like wine, right? And I love your wine, and so aside from me being a convert to Pinot with 33 wines, the reality though is, and this sounds corny because my wife reckons I'm a bit of a nutter, right? But I can taste the winemaker. Yep. Right, and aside from, and in your 3 Pinots, I can taste the different dirt. Yep. It's really vivid, and that's why I like, in your cellar door, you've got the dirt samples there, which I so love. Yeah. But I can now start to tell the structure of the wine, because I've drunk so much of it. I can actually taste the winemaker, and I know it sounds a bit loose.
No, it's not loose at all.
But I can tell the guy that's made the wine properly. You can get.
That's cool. They call that a thumbprint.
Oh, is it? Yeah. Okay. I never knew that.
In the wine world.
I can taste it. Yeah. And that's like with your Pinots now. Like sometimes at home we'd do some wine testings and whatever. Yeah. And the other night I picked all yours. Well, and Karen goes, well done, Mike.
That's a great compliment. Yeah. So there's a thing going around in the wine industry at the moment, and everyone's looking for an angle, and credit to them, because I like that. I like, there's a few young punks coming through, and they're challenging. They're challenging the status quo, and they're good at it. They're good at sort of the story. They're actually, and I'm learning heaps off the young blokes, and girls as well too. All the young crew, and watching the way they go about it. They got a different approach to it, and it's about fun. It's primarily about fun and having a good time. And I'm going, okay, that's what the wine industry. If you go out the other side of my age group, and go into sort of the Hallidays and stuff of the world, they're stuffy old farts, And no disrespect to Halliday, because he's a genius. He's a great bloke. And he's actually not a stuffy old fart. He's quite a funny man. Yeah. But the people around that world, in that sort of 70-year-old bracket, they're very conservative, and they've actually done, particularly the winemakers that got involved in that, they've actually done a lot of damage to the wine industry because a lot of people have now moved to beer and craft brewing and all that sort of stuff, and my mates at Four Pillars have moved into spirits. The gin thing has gone gangbusters because it's fun. Yeah. And
they've made it fun though.
Oh, they've made it fun. They don't have any rules, because they don't have any rules. But in the wine industry, we've been hankered and held back by all these rules, And what the young guys are doing in the wine industry is that they're just going, mate, throw the rule book out the window. We're going to have fun, and I'm going, I want a piece of that, because
you can taste that in the wine, and it's even like and I suppose I'm going to do a bit of a sell on 33, but I think Marcus underrate your Chardonnay, right? Which I love.
Good,
right? So I want to run through basically the range that you've got, because what surprised me after I met you at Christmas time was the more I spoke to you, you weren't selling all your ranges, and I'd asked about this. I'm making that one. I went, okay. What about this? Make one of those too. And this was happening over you and I sort of meeting and chatting and having a beer and doing all that. Yeah. I thought, shit, hang on a minute. So we're sitting here now in the middle of all these barrels. So you told me that you've got a Pinot Gris coming.
Yep.
A Sauv Blanc coming.
Yep.
Right, which is not my favourite, but
that's right. It is for some people.
Yeah, I get it. The Chardonnay.
Actually, a lot of people like Sauv Blanc, mate. Believe it or not. Yeah.
Okay, and I get it. And look, that trial this morning was good.
Yeah.
But as I said to you, one of the Sauv Blancs that always impressed me was Dog Point.
Yep.
Right. And that was a long time ago.
Yeah.
But I think I like the fullness of the Chardy.
Yep.
Right. So Chardonnay. Yep. So then after Chardonnay, we've got Pinot.
Yeah, so I probably of the new wines, we've got Sauv Blanc, Pinot Gris, and then we've got a rosé coming for the first time as well too, which will come under the 33 banner.
Beautiful.
So where are
you making that?
As in where?
The grapes. Yeah.
Oh, where are they from? So they're from because it'll come under the 33 banner. They have to come from one of our 3 vineyards, which is sort of our story, the 3 dirts. So
sorry to butt in, but Marcus's concentration is to have all Gippsland produced fruit, isn't it? That's
yeah.
your mainstay. One of the things that's impressive, because you know what, I love Gippsland,
Yeah.
right? So on that, and my development business started down this way too.
Yeah.
But the reality of that is, like, so you're sourcing all your fruit from this area.
Yeah, so I guess we've got two brands essentially now. The Dirty Three brand, which is really what the whole business is about, right? So that's the main business. That's the flagship. We make a Riesling.
Riesling's a cracker, by the way.
4 Pinots.
I told you I opened one up the other night.
Yeah, no,
you were dead right. I'm not a big Riesling fan. They converted me to it. Was a ripper.
Yeah, long live wine, that one too.
Yeah,
it'll last longer than Pinots.
Yeah, it was just beautiful. Yeah, really, and it was just lovely. We had it with Asian food.
Perfect.
It was just better than perfect. Yeah, it was great.
So the Riesling, a Pinot, which is a blend of the 3 different vineyards. So we've got 3 vineyards that we work with. So then all of the grapes in the Dirty Three range essentially come from those 3 vineyards. So we've got the Riesling, which comes from 2 of them. The main Pinot, which comes from all 3, and then we've got 3 single vineyard wines, which come from the Dirt 1, Dirt 2, and Dirt 3, hence the Dirty 3. Yeah,
the Dirt 2 is my favourite, but I like them all.
Yeah. And
what's your favourite?
And that might change next year. You know, and I'll put money on it. It changes in 17, which is the great thing about wine. Every year is different.
Yeah.
You know, I agree. I think Dirt 2 in 16 of those 3 single vineyards was the best wine. But in 17, I don't think that's the case.
Right. The soil, like in number 2, it is just. Yeah, it's actually like a biblical drink.
Yeah. Well,
it's a drink that I savour when I drink it. You know, like it's
We're in heaven, mate. If we're making sourdough down at the cellar door now, so we've got bread and wine, and we're all good. You know, and we're making Pinot, which we're making Pinot, which I heard yesterday. I did a masterclass down at the Lock Food and Wine Festival, and this lovely guy Rob Hicks was mediating it, and he used to be on radio. He's got this classic, radio voice, and he's a really good bloke. And anyway, so he said, he heard that Matt Kramer did this speech, who's a writer for Wine Spectator.
Oh, yes.
And
I'll read that.
And I think he might be on his own now, but he was back in the day. And anyway, he came out and did a thing at the Mornington Peninsula Pinot thing. And he said his final word was that Pinot Noir is the word of God on earth, basically. And to some degree, he's right. Like I resonate with that, because Pinot is the grape variety that sings or speaks of its site more strongly than any other grape variety. So it sings of its region.
Well, that's
of
what
its
you've
site,
taught me.
and
You've
with
taught
those,
me that.
With the 3 dirts.
Yeah, you've taught me that.
You've already said that those 3 wines taste so different to each other. And that isn't me. The style's me, but the way the grapes or the wine tastes is just inherent in the flavor, from the dirt that they're growing in, and so that's got to do with aspect and soil and
drainage,
management,
stuff,
all the French call it terroir. Territory. Like a Latin term for like the territory. But there's no English direct translation, so we use the same word, terroir. And the French just it's a terroir, it's the vibe of the thing,
Hey, you do that pretty well. Maybe we should do some gimmicky French
I work with a Frenchman, mate, so the terroir is like the everything, the climate are in that little patch, and that can change. We'll go into the vineyard later, but and I'll show you what I mean. But the vineyard slopes down, and the grapes down the bottom taste different to the stuff up the top. And that's 20 metres away. And the French have understood that for hundreds of years. That's the whole Burgundy model, which is the home of Pinot. The whole Burgundy model is all around that, and I've studied that, drunk bucket loads of wine from there.
You worked over there too, didn't you?
I haven't worked there, but I spent a month over in France dissecting all the vineyards and tasting at all of the very, very great wineries, and I was very privileged. But did I tell you what? That was a transformational trip for me. Like that made me understand what I was doing here.
Does that give you this? So then, does that lead you to your ethos in your business, which I want to cover for a minute? Did that sort of help build that?
Oh,
because you saw
exponentially. And it was.
That's why you source only from one region.
100%. That made me. That trip made me come back here and go, this is what I want to do, and this is why I'm going to do it.
It gave you a mental framework.
And worked out. The beautiful thing was, and we had a chat off camera beforehand earlier, was the idea of that wine the wine game and the wine industry is not a short-term thing, right? So you get one go at it per year in the harvest, right? Different to beer, different to spirits. You can make as much as you want, as often as you like. Wine, you get one go a year, one harvest per year, right? And then that. So I've had 21 goes at it so far in Australia. Hopefully I've got another 21. I don't know, at least 21. At least hopefully I've got 40 left in me.
Yeah, good.
I don't know, what have I got left in me? If I've got another, so I might have 60 vintages, and that's a pretty long career.
Yes.
If I live to a reasonable age, I might see 60 vintages. Well, that's not many really. 60 goes, right. At making wine. That's not many. No, so it has to be a long-term game, and you got to think beyond you. And that's what the French have been, and that's what I got out of it. Is I walked in and I went, holy hell, this is a lesson in agriculture, not and about industry and about longevity
and marketing and all that.
And which was the antithesis of, if we spoke about Yarra Ridge, one of the best brands out of the Yarra Valley in the 90s.
Yeah.
Right?
That was like the brand.
The brand. It was in every bistro, it was in every restaurant, it was in every bottle shop.
It was good quality and marketed great.
Great value, great wine.
Yes.
Yeah, and even their reserves were amazing. So good branding, everything was right. Doesn't exist anymore.
Yes.
Corporates have killed it.
That's right.
So that's what they don't understand. That's the bit they miss, is that they're short term. They're fad based, they're market driven, they're shareholder driven. The real wine industry, and I don't discount that because it employs people and they give a lot of money to research and development and all that sort of stuff. But it's like there's two different industries, and the industry that I'm in is very much the one that's sort of grounded in the long term thought about what we do, and it's from the French. It's from the French and the old world.
Both ends still what's unique, and I don't know whether you agreed with me before, because you were sort of grimacing, but like you're the winemaker, but you're at the other end of it too.
Yeah.
It's no different to the cellar door. You've got a cellar door. Marcus has actually got a cellar door in an industrial estate in Inverloch, and the joint is always packed out. Like it is just so not where that is.
Well, part of that, it's funny, like the industrial estate, it's like, the irony's not lost on me that it's that we've got this kind of craft thing in an industrial estate, right? Yeah. Most people, you sort of say to that, they go, "How that doesn't make any sense." I want the beauty of the vineyard. I want to be able to go out in the vineyard and be, amongst nature and all that sort of stuff. But where the idea came from was actually when I went to France. So it actually came from two places.
Yeah.
It came from when I worked in America. Yep. The guy I worked for over there is a pioneer in just sort of thinking outside the square, and he had a winery and a cellar door in the town. No, in Santa Cruz.
Oh, okay, beautiful.
And a guy called Randall Graham, who's got this very progressive label called Bonnie Doon. Amazing guy, another amazing mentor as well too.
I've heard of him.
Yeah, he's like the Willy Wonka of the wine world, right?
Yeah,
he's a madman, but I love him so much, and learnt so much off him. So just in such a short period of time, but every time he comes out to Australia, we catch up, and he'll say something new that I go, I'll say, I'm up to this, mate, and he goes, "You thought about this?" And I just go, that's a little bit of gold.
That's why we all need mentors. That's why we need mentors that you can call on.
Oh, mate, and I just couldn't believe it. I was just like, there's a couple of things he said to me, it's just awesome. But so he had this sort of winery and cellar door in the industrial estate, and it was the first time that I went, that's a novel idea. In Santa Cruz, and the place pumps, and it actually reminded me, it's a much smaller version of Inverloch. Yeah. The climate, the surf, the whole culture reminded me of here. Anyway, so and I sort of just put it away in the back burner. And then when I went to France, then I went, everywhere I went, every winery I went to was in the town. Right. There's no wineries on a vineyard in France. Nowhere. They're all in the town.
So the cellar doors are all in the town?
Cellar doors and the wineries, they're all in the town because the cellars are built under the houses they live in the village, and all the vineyards are back up in the hills, and then I went, and that was sort of
makes sense.
Yeah, it does make sense, because and you still got the beauty. You can still come out and explore the region and see, but you don't have to sit on a vineyard to have a great experience.
That's right.
And the third thing that actually solidified me, thought I want to try this thing. There's been a few. It's starting to become more popular. Giant Steps have done it in Hillsville, and mate of mine's done it in Mitchell Harris up in Ballarat.
Oh,
and, there's another one in Mornington. So it's becoming more accepted, and there's multiple reasons for that. But the other side of it was then a friend of mine who I've become friendly with recently. I actually went to her when we'll go on some more about the brand and who was involved in the brand, but the boys from Four Pillars, we decided we were going to take over the business from Cam and Stu, who've got Four Pillars. We originally started the business together.
Right. Yep.
And so I thought, and those guys are geniuses at PR and marketing, right? But I needed a fresh set of eyes to look at the PR and marketing. So I went to this woman called Angie Bradbury, who's got a marketing firm and PR firm called Dig and Fish. And she's done a lot of work in the wine sector, and she's just a straight talking,
Dig and Fish.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. She's just a straight talking, awesome human being. Again, it was just these little moments of being open to things. We'd been awarded a gold medal at the Vic 100 or whatever, and we were doing the consumer tasting, and we were sitting there, and Angie came over because it was her baby, right? She'd done this Vic 100. And she said, "I like you guys." She said, "I've never heard of you before, but I like what you're doing," and she said. So she said, "Let's have a beer after the thing." I said, "Great." So Lisa and I went and had a beer with Angie, and Lisa and Angie hit it off quickly and well. And they just clicked, and then so we had a beer together, and we started talking about where we're at with our business and all that sort of stuff. And she said, "You guys need to come and do my brand boot camp." And she said, "Look, I'll just have a think of it. I'll shoot you through some information, have a look at it." But she said, "I reckon it'll be really good for you." Anyway, so we had a look at it, and it was a fair bit of money for us at the time, and we were sort of like, can we afford to do it? And then this little sort of thing went off in my head, and Stu's like sort of words of parting advice from Stu Gregor, who's also a genius PR guy, who's now got the Four Pillars brand.
Four Pillars, yeah.
He's in Sydney, and I was having a drink with him because I was selling some wine up in Sydney, and he said, "Mate, my word of advice to you is reinvest in your brand. Just constantly invest in your brand. That's what you've got. That's all you've got is your brand, and keep investing in it." Right? And so when I got this proposal from Angie, I was like, "Oh, that's a lot of money for us." And then this little thing just went off in my head: invest in your brand.
Yeah.
And this is perfect opportunity because this girl's a genius. She's good.
Yeah.
She's a fresh set of eyes away from like Stu and their advice of where they've come, but they've been emotionally involved in it. Yeah. So she's got a clean set of eyes, and it was the best thing we've ever done. It was like the best money we've spent on our brand to this date.
Because the clarity in business, one of the things that I find, you talk about businesses that have gone.
Yeah.
Right. In the real estate industry that I come from,
yeah,
there's been a lot of businesses that have hemorrhaged due to the fact that they just haven't got a separate type of IP funnel coming in where there's no emotional involvement, where they can be clinical and go, "Marcus, this is not right. You need to have a look at it again," or whatever. Yeah. And it's interesting with that because I try and resource that a lot.
Yeah.
And that brings me to the other thing too is when I'm sort of around wine quite a bit, and then you guys sort of popped up, and aside from us becoming mates, the reality of it is the first thing was that I was appreciative of how well the wine was made, and you educated me to something else. Yeah. But what sort of got me though is that there seems to be a synergy with your brand that I don't see a lot of, and I'm not blowing wind up here now. There's sort of a synergy from the cellar door to when we meet any of you. People that are related to you, right? And even in Gippsland now is like generally booming with food and wine, and the quality of our meat, the quality of our wine, the quality of our cheeses, all that sort of stuff is just
on the verge of being discovered.
It's going to be better than great.
No, it is. We know it's great. It's just undiscovered.
Gippsland, like you can buy Gippsland beef in New York, you pay $150 a steak.
It's crazy good.
So bit by bit, people are starting to recognise it. But there's a synergy that you have, aside from your ethos about having all the grapes located here and the networking thing. If I said to you, tell me 3 things that make your brand so far, because you've really had a bit of a meteoric rise. So you're in my experience, your challenge will be now how you keep everything real and not get a bit ahead of yourself. So tell me 3 things that you reckon. 3 things you reckon you've done really well. What do you reckon you've done well since you started?
I reckon it goes back to exactly what I was saying with Angie. Is that when we went to her and we put everything up on the whiteboard and she tore our brand and business apart. And that was quite confronting. Yes. A lot of people can't do it. So she's been run out of wine regions. Yeah. Literally, she said they say to her, "Pack up your bags and go, please. We don't want to hear what you've got to say." Yeah. And because it's hurting too much. Yeah, that's
I've had people do
why.
that to me.
Yeah, and it's got
brutal.
and it's brutal, and it's hard. It's the hardest thing, you know. Like, and I was sitting there going, okay, let's do this. I'm up for it. We're at that point. We need to know. So I guess the most important things have been her.
So you're open to information.
Open to change. Open to change, and because there was change. It's also when we did that, she gave us this sort of brand pyramid, and I've still got that.
Right. Yep.
And I'll need to reference it more, but I do it now. I sort of know the brand pyramid pretty well now, and what fits into our brand and what doesn't.
Yes.
And that was her sort of parting words of advice, if you like. It's a bit of another one, is that's ringing from Angie, is that don't step outside of your brand core values.
Yes.
Don't step outside of that. Just don't.
Yeah.
Like, the temptation is there. It'll always be there, but don't do it. And that's probably the thing now that's giving us the greatest success, which was my gut feeling back, and I spoke to you about it off camera.
Yes.
It's probably number 2 is to stick. And it all fits in the pyramid. It all fits in the same thing, right?
Yep.
In the within just staying true to brand. But it was like, is making Gippsland and home the integral part of the story and the brand.
Another core value.
Core values.
Yeah,
and that's what we came down to. What are our core values?
Yeah.
And so I had an opportunity. You know, I still do. I have that opportunity now, but I certainly had an opportunity a couple of years ago to source grapes from outside of Gippsland. To go to the temptation of going to Mornington or Yarra and make a bigger Pinot Noir brand, because we've got demand for our Pinot.
Yes.
Right? I mean, we haven't really touched the other states. You know, we do a bit into Sydney, but we haven't touched Brisbane. We haven't touched South Australia, Western Australia. Haven't touched them at all. And we haven't touched any export. So we've got all these opportunities where we can expand the brand, and I was sort of going, okay, well, we can put on a distributor there, we can put on a distributor there, and then we can get some grapes from the Yarra, and we can get them from Mornington, throw together a Pinot.
It might be outside your core value range, though.
And short term, it would be a win. Guaranteed. Like, guaranteed we'd be winning. We'd be having more money, more income, more growth. I'll be able to put on another winemaker to help me with business, blah, blah, blah. Probably build a shed that I want to in a lot quicker. And then I just went, it's not right. I can't do that. Like, it's not. It's outside of the core values, outside of the brand. It is actually outside of my whole gut and my whole thing that I learnt when I was in France, is that wine's made in the village, and wine comes from the village, and you talk about the village and you do everything in the village. Yeah, it's a very old school kind of way of thinking, but it's really important. Really, like, I see it as integral.
You've shown that that's worked.
Important.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess I've sort of taking everything to the sort of extreme now with that. So, you know, the cellar door only serves local cheese and only serves local meat, you know, cured meats, and we make our own bread, and the plates that we serve it on are made by a local girl, and the arts that we've got on the wall is local artists. You know, so it's really why did we do the cellar door? That's probably the best decision that we've made for the business to this date. And I sort of knew it. I'd avoided it for a long time. We did all of our stuff just through wholesale, pretty much.
Yeah. But making great wine's not enough. You have to tell people that you make great wine.
It gave us a home, mate.
Yeah.
It gave us a home. I didn't realise quite how important that physical presence is. I'd underestimated it.
Do you know it's a go-to venue? Like in Inverloch, speaking as a part-time local, like it is the go-to venue. So therefore, and the reality of that is when we think of going for a meal, sometimes we'll just go for a platter, even though we'd like a meal, but we go because we love the venue, we love you guys, and we like the wine. So therefore, there's a synergy that happens. That's what I was getting at before. Like, you've got a synergy happening that I don't really know whether you know how strong that is.
Yeah, it's happened organically. Like, I haven't... Like, it hasn't been calculated. Yeah. Like, I'm not like that sort of person.
That's a gift of love. And
Lisa's not.
That happens.
Yeah, and
it's a gift of love because you love it.
And that's right. It's just been a passion. It's just been, and it's been like, it's hurt. Yeah. It's hurt, like, from a financial point of view. You know, but we're slowly starting to see it pay off, and I think, as I say, I go back to that thing that in wine it's a long-term game. So I keep thinking long-term, and then act short-term, but keep continuing to think long-term.
Do you know this? I talk about trigger points a lot, and let me tell you what a trigger point was. We had a wine dinner at Quillen Restaurant in Glen Waverley a couple of weeks back, and what you did at that wine dinner with the Pinots, we converted 4 or 5 of my Shiraz Cabernet drinking mates to Pinot, because they like me, and they said, "Oh, Biv, we don't drink Pinot.
Yeah.
I said, you got to come to the dinner. And they all came up and they said, shit, right? And we converted, and it's quite, like even Brian came up to you, and spoke to you. That's a trigger point. Because to convert someone who's so staid in their drinking philosophy or their ethos of drinking, right? And there is a bit of a pattern of behaviour, drinking.
Oh,
right?
yeah,
to convert
and eating
them,
and everything.
To convert them, and even me, that's what I said to Brian. I said, over Christmas I got converted. I'm telling you, Brian, once you taste these, you will be converted. You'll be converted. So therefore, it's, you know, having a great drop is great, and you're obviously great at it. But actually letting people know that you're great at it is more important sometimes.
Yeah, and I guess the cellar door, like it does have multi functions, you know, so it's a home.
Yep.
It's a place for people to come and experience what we do, and that's probably the key.
Yeah.
The experience, and Angie helped us with that.
Yeah.
But you cannot work out the experience until you do it. So you can have as many ideas as you like, and then some of them land. And some of them work and some of them really don't work. And they're the ones that you just got to flick and go, oh, that didn't work, we'll just get rid of that and we'll try something new. Yeah. And so the key that I've learnt to our business with 33 and what we do is that people, they have to walk away having experienced something. You have to give them some knowledge or something. And for you, it was just, you know, and that turnover to Pinot Noir to actually have an exposure to it, to what it means, to what, you know, and so we can educate people through Pinot.
That's right.
Or we can just educate them about our region, so they might not like Pinot, and that's fine. It doesn't matter, you know. But we'll say, hey, here's 2 bloody cracking cheeses on our platter that are made by this awesome crew down the road, you know, like Burke and Bron at Prom Country, you know, like seriously, these cheeses are world class. And being very, very proud of the fact, and this is the next phase of where we go and hopefully continue to go. We started it, is collaboration. Yeah. So for us and the region being bigger as a result of doing things together, and that's hard because some people are resistant to that, because they're fearful of it and and can't see what's in it for them, and you know, but people like Burke and Bron get it. They serve our wine at their place in there, and
even the gin boys.
Oh,
you
mate,
you don't
they've
have
been geniuses
and you walk into that place, you walk out of there feeling that you know everybody.
Yep.
But you guys have got the same thing on a smaller scale.
Yep,
Do you know
absolutely.
what I mean?
And
I
I
reckon
definitely,
that's a great business model, that gin.
I've taken a lot of what we do, because they opened that cellar door probably about a year before we opened, or maybe a bit more, maybe 18 months before.
Yeah, I went there the week after it
opened. So I just sort of watched what they were doing, and I just went, that's the key. It's not about having, it's not about actually sort of what the place is. It's about the people walk into that and have an experience.
Yeah, but every staff member there like yours knows about the wine. Even I listen to Lisa. Lisa speaks as influential about the wine as you do.
Yeah.
Like her knowledge of it is excellent.
Yeah,
like
and they can't, and we had a staff meeting the other day, and you know, we go through and taste the new releases and talk about them and give them notes about it, and you know, try and educate them as much as we can. And part of that happens on the go as well too, because you can't give it all in one session. So they'll listen to me and the way I talk about the wines and to the customers, and then soak it up and you know, sort of give that. And as I said to them the other day, I can't expect any of you guys, and Lisa included, and she's got the most intimate access to it, to have the knowledge that I do. No one expects that. No one expects, unless they're talking to me, no one expects you to be me. No one expects you to be the winemaker.
If they get a bit of it though, it warms them up.
But we can give you the tools to you know, answer a few questions, and you know, after that, if you can't answer it, don't lie. Tell them you don't know, and you'll find out, and give them my email address or whatever, or you know, say we'll email them back, but it's just that it's customer service, you know, and it's a whole new world for me, because I guess I'd be a bit like you in it. I've been, you know, I go out to a restaurant and I'm looking to number one is I'm just looking to have a good time.
Yeah.
But I'm critiquing it at the same time.
Absolutely.
But only internally.
Yeah.
I don't verbalise that.
Yeah.
I don't say that to anyone in the restaurant ever. I've never done that. I've never actually said that was shit house. Like, thank you very much, walk out. I just don't tell anyone about it. You know, and I think we're all the same. I think
you just don't go back.
There's very few of us, unless we're, you know, complete egocentrics, that we actually say that steak was shit house, mate. Not, you know, like, you know, most people don't do that to people, you know.
Yeah.
But I do internalise the experience, and I actually often dissect it and go, why was that so good? You know, why did I have such a good time? And I'll work it out and dissect it and go, okay, well, 9 times out of 10 it was because the staff were friendly, they knew their stuff, you know, and they made me feel really comfortable.
Yeah.
You know, and that was it. And
Yes.
that's the bottom line of it. And I had a good product to start with. I was selling something that was
Yes,
so,
that's
but
right.
but it's the add-ons after that. So we could make the best wine in the universe. You know, we could make the wine that we do with a crappy brand and a cold-hearted sort of approach to it
Yeah.
in Cellar, and that place would be a disaster.
That's right.
We'd have no one in there.
That's right. That's what I said to you before about the synergy that you guys have got. Well, guys, hopefully you enjoyed that like I did. As you can tell, Marcus is a wealth of information. Marcus, thanks very much again. It's just,
Pleasure,
mate, I
mate.
just love being here with you, and I certainly love talking about your wine. Guys, for one of the things that I've always loved about the wine industry is the people that are in it that are pure of heart. And as you can see with this interview, and it's gone a lot longer than what we thought, which I thought might happen anyway, because Marcus is a wealth of knowledge and worked with some of the Australia's best winemakers. And obviously you can see where Marcus is going in relation to that. But Marcus's humble approach to this business, as I said at the start, is really what's making it. And aside from the great quality of wines, the whole ethos about the cellar door and presenting it and giving wine to people that is affordable but great is really quite unique. So hopefully you've enjoyed this as much as I have. God bless. Take care.